Good morning, everyone. Thanks for getting out early, as Sean said. You know, it's after 2 nights of partying and a full day of conferences, you can see who the dedicated people are that can actually still get out at 9 a.m. in the morning, you know. So, you know, no problem speaking to the real dedicated few here. So I'm just going to really build off of kind of what I discussed yesterday. We have these really important victories. What can we do to keep this momentum up and bring this kind of reform to places like Texas and states across the country? So first, as I kind of mentioned yesterday, we've had an incredible legislative cycle this year when it comes to marijuana law reform bills. I'm just going to touch on a couple of those rather briefly to give you an idea of what's going on around the country. Here on the first page, we see some of the ones that actually have been approved. Colorado passed 2 historic measures for the first time ever. They're the first state to approve regulation of the commercial sale and production of cannabis. And that was because of all the efforts that NORML chapters across the country and marijuana activists have done for the past 40 years. We finally got to this point where the legislature approved it, the governor signed off and says, we are going to have a legal marijuana market for adults. And the importance of that really cannot be overstated. It was quite a historic time, and you know, what basically that did, it set up all the regulations and in their proposed tax rates, but in Colorado, tax rates have to be voted on by the citizens, so that will go before voters in the coming elections. Kentucky, of all places, they approved hemp legislation this year, and as we've seen at the federal level, it's really the Kentucky senators and like Rand Paul and Mitch McConnell actually that are really pushing this movement for industrial hemp forward with a new momentum that we haven't seen previously. There's a lot of interest in hemp, and we are seeing bills across the country being introduced to allow farmers to grow it. Maryland approved a medical marijuana-related bill. We don't like to call it necessarily a medical marijuana program, as it's extremely restrictive. It basically, you know, sets up a very limited program where practicing hospitals would be able to apply and then distribute to patients, but it's a start. Vermont, they have decriminalized marijuana. They're now the 17th state to have decriminalized marijuana possession for adults under an ounce, nothing more than a ticket. And it just shows what kind of, when you have supportive politicians behind you, what you can get done. Governor Shumlin is a very vocal supporter of NORML. He's actually personally, when he got reelected this year, he's personally called the office and says, I want to make marijuana law reform a priority. And when you have friends like that, you really have such strong wind at your back. We had the governor behind us, we had the attorney general of the state behind us, and that went through very smoothly. And Nevada, it now just approved for dispensaries. They had a medical program, previously didn't have dispensaries. Illinois passed a medical marijuana pilot program. And Oregon just recently expanded their medical marijuana program to include post-traumatic stress disorder, which is incredibly important because at this time when we're seeing more and more restrictive marijuana bills being passed, many states are stripping out this very important ailment that marijuana is really perfect for treating. And it's a huge epidemic that we're going to have on our hands. We have countless troops returning from Afghanistan and Iraq that are really suffering, and to deny them this treatment is unconscionable, and it was great to see Oregon take a step forward in putting that in. Where, unfortunately, on the other hand, New Hampshire, what we had was we had a rather strong medical marijuana bill introduced, and we had really strong legislative support, and then the governor places down her restrictions: no home cultivation, no PTSD. So the Senate kind of buckled and they took them out, and we're still in the process of hashing out those details, but it looks like, you know, we're going to follow the trend of legislators being very cautious on this matter and stripping these kind of bills down to very basic bills. And as I touched upon yesterday, Maine, we got within 4 votes of passing legalization just on Friday to put it on the referenda for this fall. And actually I have good news because I talked to our sponsor of the bill after I got off stage yesterday, and we are taking this to the Senate floor, and we're still going to fight this out. As soon as Monday, we will have another full floor vote on legalization in Maine. And to have a floor vote, the importance of that really can't be denied. It gives you an opportunity, win or lose. You got your target list of legislators now. Where do they stand? Who's already behind us that we can work to co-sponsor bills in the future? And who do we need to target to work on? And a couple other bills, you know, stand a pretty decent chance of getting approved this year. New Jersey still has a decrim bill that's floating around, and I've heard there may be some momentum behind that before the close of session. And the ones that have been making news a lot this year actually are the 2 New York bills. The one to equalize the penalties for decriminalization. Currently, they have a very schizophrenic law where it's decriminalized if it's in privacy, it's in your pocket, but as soon as that comes into public view, now it's a crime. And that's what, as I'm sure you've all heard, the stop and frisk program, which led to these overabundance of arrests, particularly of people of color in the state of New York. So the governor has been supporting that. Mayor Bloomberg was supporting that. The Commissioner Kelly of the NYPD was supporting that. And that looks like it has some momentum, as well as their medical marijuana bill, which was just approved by the Assembly, and we have about a couple of weeks to get that to the Senate and get that approved. And if we can get New York to approve medical marijuana, the influence of that state with its population and just how the signpost it is for politics would be huge. Having those, New York and California, two of the most populous states in the country, really get behind these reforms, really put some fire in our belly, and definitely gives us stuff moving forward to really get behind. And just the quick summary, incredible amount of bills, incredible amount. 10 legalization, 20 medical, a dozen decrim, 7 federal, and they just keep coming in. So how do we turn this momentum into our victories? Well, first things first is to get involved in your local politics, and I can't stress this enough. A lot of people really kind of overlook how important that your local city council race, your local board of commissioners race, your mayor's race can be. So you really want to get out there and make yourself known. Attend candidate forums and debates. Get your question in there. They take questions from the audience. Sometimes you'll have less people in the room than this, and you could have a really close personal dialogue with your future mayor. And get them on the record on how they feel on this. As long as they think they can avoid answering the question, they will. Politicians, by nature, are an incredibly cautious folk, and they're not going to get out on this unless their constituents push them. So we really need to make sure they come out on it. And we can help them along, provide them educational literature that we all have. Go to NORML.org, print some stuff out. Here's some information on cannabis. Start the dialogue. And most of these elected officials are on their ascendancy in politics. Your mayor today is very likely going to be a governor tomorrow, may find themselves in the Senate. Maybe they're running for president. If you build these relationships early and we get them on our side, this will pay massive dividends later when they arise to influence. Work with the legislature we already have as well. Make sure your local and state reps know who you are. They're surprisingly accessible when they find out that you're a constituent and you're the one keeping them employed. Make sure set up some office meetings when you're around the Capitol. Make phone calls. Just be in touch. When there's a bill, just ring them and be like, here's what I want you to support this. I live in your district. People that vote for you want this. And you can do things such as Texas NORML has done a great job with. They developed a really informational legislative information packet that they went and they gave out to all the representatives here in Texas. Basic information on cannabis, basic information on the bills. Here's our contact information. And I know people like Cheyenne Weldon, who we'll hear from later, have developed really close working relationships with the legislators. And that is why we got it so far this year in Texas, and we'll get even further next time. And attend these town halls, host lobbying days, keep the pressure on. And as many of you know, NORML has a Take Action Center. If you just go to NORML.org, you'll see a big Act button in the right corner of the screen. And you click that, you'll see a list of every single cannabis-related bill that's currently in play at the state level and the federal level. You can click any of them. It's an easy tool. Write a letter in about 5 seconds to your representatives, and they will hear from you. Spread that around online. We've had thousands and thousands of letters generated for each bill through this, and we've had hearings we never thought we would have because of this outpouring of public support. Be involved in your community. Make a good face for cannabis consumers. Again, another thing that people down here in Texas have done really well. You hold educational forums where you can, free venues, libraries, schools. They'll often give you space to have a meeting and bring in a good speaker for no charge at all. I know Texas was recently involved in many benefit walks and cancer walks, things of that sort. Do a highway cleanup. Just be out there wearing your NORML shirt proudly and show that you're a productive member of the community. You're not the stereotype we think they are. We're your neighbors, we're your friends, we're your family. And if funding allows, you can. It's surprisingly affordable sometimes to target people in your weekly print papers. Get the message out there, whether there's a bill or an action or just a general meeting coming up. Make yourselves known. And this one, a little bit less so in Texas. You don't have much of an initiative process, but you can always look in to see if your local community allows any sort of non-binding resolutions, lowest law enforcement priority, as we've seen in some local cities. But again, it always comes down to polling. Politicians need to see the numbers, they need to know the support's there, and they need to hear from you and their constituents. One thing I hear a lot from legislators as I work with them is where we need supportive local professionals. So if you can identify in-state professionals, doctors, economists, nurses, lawyers, law enforcement, who are willing to organize and come out and testify on your bills, sign on to a letter, this becomes incredibly influential. The in-state part is really important. They like to hear from their own people. If you can say, here's a Texas doctor, he's behind medical marijuana, listen to what he has to say. It's surprisingly how you kind of get their ear a little bit more than if just you or I were out there telling them this information. DPA did an effort like this recently. They collected signatures from about 600 plus doctors in New York signing onto a letter stating that they want the option to prescribe medical marijuana. And that kind of splashed actually after Bloomberg made these atrocious comments that calling medical marijuana the biggest hoax in history. So well, thankfully he will be out of office soon, so we can maybe move some more things in New York. We had a similar thing with an economist sign-on letter previously, 300 economists signed on saying they want to legalize marijuana. Not only is that good to show your elected officials that there are professionals supporting this, it's a great media plug. And you use all these to relay into your future legislative support, get these people to testify in person, get them the right testimony. You and these people write letters to the editor of your local papers. It's some of the best free press you can get. You see any article mildly related to marijuana, write a quick letter. They all usually take 250 to 300 words. It's quick, and it's an easy way to get the name out there and the message out there. And also support marijuana PACs. These are things that are coming about more and more. NORML has a PAC where we support cannabis for friendly candidates. And I know MPP has a PAC, and there's a lot of new efforts coming online on the West Coast to support these candidates. If we can get people that support us in office, we get our bills introduced, we get hearings, we get votes. And most importantly, don't feel like you don't have something to offer because maybe you're not an articulate public speaker, you don't know the most about technology. Everyone has something to give in this movement. Whether you're working a table for the group, you're making some phone calls, hosting an event at your house, just folding the t-shirts and helping ship them out, donating art, hand out literature, there is something you can do to help. There's no person that doesn't have anything to contribute to this. And be normal. Don't be ashamed to wear the shirt. As I'm sure many of you know, it's an incredible conversation starter. Whether you're on the bus, you're down at a restaurant, someone's going to come out and talk to you. And if we can have those conversations with people and normalize the behavior, we're winning. And that's why we've seen these polls, as we've seen the graphs countless times yesterday, that we are starting to win amongst most people. Texas won't be last, guys. And if I've seen anything this weekend with the quality of activists here, the dedication and just the energy behind the movement, we will get this done. Together we will legalize marijuana, and we will get our politicians behind us. And if they don't, we'll vote their asses out of office. So thank you for your time. I want to make sure we stick on schedule, but... And thank you all for being involved in Texas. It's been incredibly empowering to see the group come together here over the years, and just this conference is really a sign of where you come. And we will get something done here in the next couple of years. Enjoy the rest of the conference.